we thank you and we glorify you. We ask you to speak to us through Father JP, who has been an inspiration in all our lives. Continue to bless his precepts. And we ask for Mama Mary's intercession by saying, Hail Mary,
full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Father, bless us.
May Almighty God bless you all, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Holy water? No? You know what? I'll switch. No, I like it. Ooh. Listen, I went to do the Amigos de Jesus retreat about health, and we went to bless the rooms. And I was like, man, I wish I had brought holy water and exercise salt. I'm not kidding. Somebody looked at me. He was like, I have some. I was like, I love it. I love it. This is the kind of people we need. Okay. So, how about this? By way of kind of by way of an intro, I knew something was up. I was like, there's something near me. I was like, actually, you know what? I was going to tell you. I'm not kidding. I was going to tell you, you can put it with the others.
Yeah.
You know, so attach it.
That was a plan.
Yeah, the idea would be to piggyback? Yeah. To carry up or to continue on some of the lessons and some of the hopes that we want to bring out from the retreat. That's generally just little, not having to do with it, but a little present to you. That's a smart thing to do with any retreat. To find a way to carry it forward. Now, if you're in charge of the retreat, I used to do this with the amigos. I would always say one of the talks on Sunday has to be about what are we going to do now from the retreat. We were about to always put that in because it helps you carry it forward. It's really nice, but a retreat, by definition, is like a little bubble. It's protected from the world. You can't stay there because then it wouldn't be a retreat anymore. It would just be a Tuesday. You know, you got to get out and do something. So to leave it, but then you think, yeah, but when I get out, everything is the same. And so I'm going to fall the same way. Right? But that's only if you're not different, right? Because that's the most important thing. And so if you have the retreat, then do that. If you're not, if you're ever attending a retreat and you want to make sure you carry it, then I'm not kidding. The last day of the retreat, start planning. Get a pen and paper and write down what you want to do to make it different for yourself. You know, to guide yourself. Make a couple promises. Then go back in a couple of weeks or a month and check and see how you were doing. You know, because it's easy to carry it and then the feeling hopefully is there and it helps. But the feeling is only a feeling. You know, I can feel like I love you, but if I'm robbing from you, then it's not really love. You know, it's about what you do. So it's really about how to continue the surrender. So is Ruben? I saw him. No? Okay. When he asked a while ago, he asked me. I said, all right, give me the weekend of the retreat. He's like, really? I said, yeah, I'll take the week after. He's like, whoa, why? I said, because we'll continue it from there. You know, we'll keep it going. So a couple of things to look at. It's really to look at what abandonment means in terms of holiness and what goals and such. 1. 2, to look at what are some steps before and after, especially like interior, like what to do with ourselves. And 3, really to look at like what work we should be doing. Because here's the thing, the fundamental problem is we usually get the word surrender or the word abandonment as a passive thing. And if nothing else, remember that it's not. That's not at all what we mean. Laying down doesn't get you on the cross. And laying down doesn't get you to rise up either, you know? And so you got to kind of make it an active thing. So the first thing to look at is one difference that people might get confused when we talk about surrender or abandonment is obedience. They go, oh, so it's obedient. No. They're connected on a certain level, but no, really, they're different things. Obedience is connected to the virtue of justice, giving what is due. Okay, that's what justice is in a very, very basic definition. So obedience is, I have to do this because it's what I'm supposed to do. I like it. There we go. Remember we talked about having a prayer place in your home? A small thing like a candle can help. You'll see, especially at the end of a meeting or at the end of time of prayer. Because then you start talking and hanging out, you're like, whoa, wait, we got to blow it out first. Okay, let's pray a prayer before we blow it out. Then you finish right, and then you kind of follow through. Obedience is connected to justice. So I tell people you have to be obedient to your superiors, your reasonable superiors. Fine. Obedience especially is good for work, right? Because you have to be obedient. But what's the difference? Surrender is connected to the virtue of charity, of love. So one comes from what I have to owe, and so I do it. The other comes from what I want to give. And so I do it. Do you see the difference? It's the same reason. It's the same reason you start getting interested in the things of somebody you love. Have you ever noticed that? Most people in a friendship, in a spiritual relationship, and really definitely in a romantic relationship, start acting similar. If you haven't noticed that, you haven't looked carefully enough. They start picking up each other's language. Like one of them says cool beans, the other one will say cool beans eventually. Okay? It's just going to happen. It's going to rub off. Or if someone is into Star Wars, right? Why not say that? Because everybody's like that. The other person will get into Star Wars eventually. I mean, it's not gonna, now, they may not love it. They may be like, okay, but they're not going to not know what it is. That's not going to happen. You're clearly not close enough if you don't at least, because you start getting interested. Okay? It's the same reason if you want relationship with children, right? Parents and older brothers and sisters know all kinds of useless information in their heads. I've said this 100 times. I know all of Barney's songs. All of them. I know that there was the kid that couldn't hear, the white kid that was a little deaf. I know there was a little black girl, a little black boy. By the way, Kareem, soon to be Father Kareem, was on Barney. You can look up that episode. Yeah. Anyway, he was on a birthday episode. But anyway, that's a little present from me to him. I've been looking up. His aunt has a copy, so I'm willing to bribe that woman, whoever she is, for like his first mass, like the reception, and then just like play that. And I'm just throwing it out there. Anyway, I know all the songs. I know why. Not because I was way too old for Barney, but my niece was the perfect age. I learned less because by then I was just like a little bit. I had moved away a little bit, and I was a little bit later. But I know about Dora and Map and Boots and all the crazy things that are involved in Dora. How? Because my other niece was involved in it. Because I love them, then the things they love start becoming part of me. Okay, you guys get that so far?
Yep.
Okay. Apply that to God and you have turned religion upside down for what most people think. Most people think what? Religion is all these rules that you have to follow. That's because they're doing it out of obedience, not out of surrender. And when you do something out of obedience, it will only last so long. I'm supposed to do this, I'm supposed to do this. And anybody here who does exercise, you know the same principle, right? If you only exercise what you have to do a minimum, you're not going to last very long. But if you start making it like, no, I'm trying to be a healthier person, I'm trying to make better choices, internalize it, it becomes part of you. So the same thing with obedience. Obedience comes from justice. Surrender comes from charity. And I mean that, I'm not being poetic. You can look up, in the theology of St. Thomas Aquinas, he traces where those virtues come from. He traces all the virtues, where they come from. And so when you start looking at it that way, then you start looking at a little bit more. Now, when we talk about obedience, or when we talk about abandonment or surrender, we look at goals. It should be a goal of my life. I want to reach the point of what? Of holiness. And this is where now, the first step, right, obedience and surrender is where people who aren't church people get it twisted. Okay, church people get it twisted a little further down the tree. They get confused where they go, okay, so my goal is to do this. So what do? And I've done it. We've all done it. I reach for this goal and there I got it. There. How come I'm not holy? Or worse, hey, look at this guy. Hey, look at this guy. What's going on? There's chairs on that side, and there's one over here, and there's one over there. I'm sorry, for those who are listening to the recording, Pope Francis and Cardinal Sarah just walked in, and so I just wiped on them in. They don't know. They can't see it. I can do what I want. Okay. So, the thing is, the people who are trying to do God's will, what is their problem? And I hear this as a priest. People go, Father, I prayed about this. I'm supposed to be this. Now we could do marriage. We could do religious life. We could do anything. Let's say somebody wants to get religious life. Somebody says, Father, I'm trying to be religious. Okay, I'm studying to be religious. I think that's what God wants me to do. Okay, cool. Go ahead. Awesome. Take some time, think about it, pray about it, get ready, go look at different religious orders, right? And what happens? The religious order they want doesn't want them. Some of you, that might be a big factor. Like, wait, they reject people? Oh, they do. Okay, just so you know, they do. So then they come back and they go, Father, what happened? Or the person who wants to get married, and they're looking at marriage, they're trying to do the right thing, and then something changes in the marriage. Not that they don't get married, but maybe in their prep, they realize they can't get married the way they wanted to. This is going to change, or that's going to change. Or different factors. Or they get married and they thought this was going to be part of their marriage, and their life changes. And they go, well, Father, wasn't I supposed to have a family and I can't have kids? What's wrong with that? Here's the thing. It's about our goal. What was our goal? To do God's will. Right. And it's not What's God's goal for you? To get you to heaven. For you to be holy. But heaven would probably be a torture for you if you weren't ready for it yet. So he's got to make you holy first. If you don't understand what I mean, think of your eyes and light. We're made to see light. Watch newborns. They instinctively look up at the light. That's what they look at. Unless they're looking at their mother or father, because that's the most beautiful person in their life. Other than that, what do? They look up and they watch the light. You move them, especially real little ones, like, month, 2 months in. They keep looking for the light. They look for the light. It's instinctive in us. But can you have too much light for your eyes? Sure, it happens all the time. Wait till my good friend the winter gets here, and then go inside after it snowed, and then go back outside and you can't see for a second. It's called snow blindness. Because there's so much light hitting off the snow that you can't see for a second. Your eyes are made for light. Why can't you see? Because it's too much. So it takes a little bit for your eyes to get used to it. Do you get what I'm trying to say so far? Mm-hmm. The same thing with everything else. And so God doesn't want you to have, God can't give you his presence until you're ready for it. Think about all of the times in the Bible. Look in the Bible. How many times God got close to people and they ran away or got scared? Start with Moses. Right? Moses, originally the plan with Israel, look in the book of Exodus. The plan with the people of Israel and Moses is what? God and Moses chill. They talk a lot, right? They're cool. But God says, bring the people out here to Mount Horeb or Mount Sinai, both same mountain. Bring them here so that they can worship me and I can meet my people. Everybody's like, cool. So they go and they travel. They get there, right? They cross the Red Sea, right? They cross on the ground. They get to the mount, the holy mountain. And Moses says, I'll be back. He goes up the hill, goes to do some prayer, comes back. And then it says what? Smoke comes down. Lightning starts happening. They heard a trumpet sound that got louder and louder and louder till the people could almost not take it anymore. And then Moses would talk, and they would hear lightning in response to him. And then Moses comes back and goes, you guys all right? And everybody says, nope, don't ever do that again. Don't ever do that again. If you don't believe me, look again. People go, why doesn't God talk to us anymore? And I think, you haven't read your Bible. No. Well, read it. It's right there. We said no. God was totally ready for let's talk. People was like, never do that again. You talk to God, he talks to you, you come back and tell us. And from that moment forward, there is an intermediary between God and man. And I'm not kidding. Look at it. Come on in. I like it. Pope Emeritus Benedict came in now, and he's sitting down and making his chair. Well, we're recording it, and they can't see, so I can say what I want. So, Franklin, just cut that part out, and then it's good. They'll be like, wow, no, the Pope came. And so, you'll see that from that moment forward, the people ask, we're not ready for God. Now, that's one example, but there are a bunch of. When the prophet Isaiah, he sees God. He has a vision. He's in the temple. He has a vision. He sees God. And as his eyes go up to the throne, he drops down. He says, I guess I have to die. Because in the Bible before him, it says, anybody who looks upon the face of God will die. They're not ready for it. So much that they're going to be overloaded. And God, he goes, why are you going to die? He goes, because I am a man of unclean lips living amongst the people of unclean lips. Isaiah is smart enough to recognize he's a sinner. So God sends an angel to get an ember and clean his mouth. And it's burned him, but it purified him. And he says, now you can see me and you won't die. And you can hear my word. And again, look this up. That's Isaiah chapter 5, if I remember correctly. It's been a while, but yeah. God needs you to get ready. So the thing is, a lot of times, right, people who don't do church, don't do God, right, what do they think of it? The first thing I said. They think about it as obedience, right? Just rules they have to follow. People who start walking with God a little bit figure out it's more than obedience, it's surrender. Which means I just give willingly. Okay? But then the people who walk with God, their trip up often is what? They get a goal from God. I'm not saying they're making it up, all right? I'm hoping they're in prayer. I'm hoping they're trying to do the right thing. They're walking in peace. They get a goal in their life. Okay. They get a goal they understand is from God, but then their mistake is what? Why can't something went wrong with that goal? Or something turned, or I don't feel peace anymore when I'm trying to get that goal. What's the matter with me? What's the matter with God? Nothing. He might have changed the goal. What? Well, not in the sense of getting you to heaven, but very much in the sense of needing you to do something different to get there. Okay, put it this way. I live on Staten Island right now. To get from here to my parish, you make a left. I'm parked on Arden Street. You make a left. Okay, if you make only one left and drive straight, you actually will be going north. You won't be going to Staten Island. You make a left till you get to, what is that, Broadway? No, Dyckman. Then you make another left. Then you stay on Dyckman. Then you kind of curve slightly to the right to get onto the highway. Then you stay to the left at the curve. Then you drive down. Then you go under the bridge. You circle around. You get back on the bridge. You cross the George Washington Bridge. Come on in. And so what happens is you start realizing that to get to one goal, Staten Island, you have to make a lot of different directional turns, some of which don't seem like they make sense. You get what I'm saying so far? The same thing happens with you reaching holiness. God will very often, almost always, change directions on you a couple of times. Not because he's moved and not because he doesn't want you to go where he told you to go, but because to get there you might have to move. Do you get what I'm trying to say? It's like a journey. It is a journey. It's the most important journey any of us take. It's the most important journey any of us take, which is to reach holiness. So God will move with us. So when you surrender, it's not one act of surrender. One act of surrender is awesome, but it is only one act of surrender. Unless you die right that minute, you have a whole lot of surrendering to do in the rest of your life. Hey, miss, come on in. So, what happens is, a lot of us get something clear from God, and we make one act of surrender. But you can't, that's not enough. And we've all been here. If you've tried to walk with God, you've known this has happened to you. You went to a talk, or you went to a retreat, or you were just on the train and you felt the moment where you felt God's love, right? And you're like, I'm going to be a good person. And then 5 years later, you're like, what's the matter with the priest? Like, yo, tell him something. Like, I'm not a good person. Why am I not a good person yet? Well, because you got to keep going. Okay? It's like when some of us want to move. Anybody here has had to make a big choice in their life, a move, like move to another city or do something. They think, I've had people ask me, Father, is this the right decision? And I always tell them the same thing. It's one decision. I think it's the right one. Yeah, if you prayed about it and you worked it out and you used prudence and common sense, yeah, might be the right decision. Okay, so my life is going to get better. No, I didn't say that. Why not, Father? Because this is one decision. Moving, okay, my father came from Puerto Rico to New York City. That was a good decision. But there's also plenty of people who would have robbed him if he would have left them. Oh, so New York is terrible. No, he just meant a bad person in New York. Sorry, bro. Like, it happens. So you got to keep making decisions, is what I'm trying to say. And sometimes it's going to feel like, well, if I decided the thing that God wanted me to do, why is my life not easier? Because it's not about what you do, it's about who you are. That's the biggest thing. And to get you to be who you are, there's a process. The example we have very real to us right now is little kids and school. I was the kid who would do the math in my head, my own way, and then write the answer, and I wouldn't get full credit. And I would go, why didn't I get full credit? It says show work. And I was like, yeah, but I got it. Yeah, but show your work. I don't know how I got it. And I'm not kidding. I still, to this day, some stuff I don't know how I got it. You know those crazy questions about if this train leaves that train, this station, and this fine? I would know the answer. I'd have to think about it and figure out the answer. How did you do that? I don't know. That's the answer, though. And then if it was multiple choice, it was easy, right? Because I'd be like, well, that's the right answer. Boom. But show your work? That was hard. You know what I used to do? This is horrible, but thankfully I'm past school. Or at least that level of school. I used to just write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then erase it. So then the teacher would see numbers, and then I would just write the right answer. And they would be like, "Well, he did math because you could kind of see the." And I seriously would do that. I did that. Once I figured that trick, I was like, "Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5," and then erase it. But that way you kind of see numbers, and the teacher would just take my word for it. I'm a terrible person. I tell you. I will, if there's a way around something, I'll figure it out. Carlos knows what I'm talking about. You remember the baby guessing party? The baby gender guessing party? I'm a bad man. I'm a very, very bad person. Because I didn't understand how to do the work. But the thing is, the teacher, what does the teacher want? The teacher doesn't want the right answer. They know the answer. They don't need the answer. They want you to know how to get the answer. You get me? I remember learning how to make coquito. Once I learned how to make coquito, I used the internet, because forget that. Once I learned, it was Christmas time. I learned it around, after Thanksgiving, around Christmas time. And make coquito was great, right? And then like 3 months later, I came down. Now she's Sister Mater Christi, but at the time she was Jennifer. I came down the stairs, and I was like, all right, drinks? And she's like, what? Here, have a drink. I was the best boss ever. I was like, have a drink. She's like, but I'm working. I was like, I'm your boss. I don't care. Here. I'm the boss. Here. And she'd be like, what? We making coquito. It's like Lent. I was like, I don't care. Once I know how to do it, it's mine. Now I can do whatever I want with it. Middle of the summer, I was like, it's hot. Do you know what would cool me off? Coquito. Let's go mix that. And I mixed that. I was like, woo! Oh, it's so good in the hot. Ooh, it helps me go. It helps me cool off. Why? Because once I knew how, and I remember the people I learned, we all learned together. We all just looked it up and made different things. People I learned it with, literally, they were like, you're insane. You just like, once you learn how to make it, I was like, I don't care, whatever. I'll just do what I want. Now it's mine. The recipe is now, I've internalized it. It's part of me. I can make it whenever I want. So I choose when I want to eat it. You get what I'm trying to say? I haven't done that with habichuela dulce. What is it? Habichuela con dulce. I don't do that with because it's just a lot of work. Like, I learned how to make it, and I'm good. Thanks. You can make it. I leave that to the little old ladies. Like, I'm good with that. It's like 4 hours of work. Get out of here. It's not that good. Coquito is 6 minutes, and then you have some. So, you know. So the idea is what the teacher wants you to learn, wants you to change. That's why God sometimes changes stuff on you. And we've all had it. We're like, well, I did this, and this was good enough for me spiritually. Why is it not good enough now? Because he's changed for you. Why? Because he wants you to change. And that's the biggest thing you have to worry about in terms of your goal. Our goal is our holiness, and you have to be willing, and this is tough, but you have to be willing to say whatever it takes to get to holiness. Whatever change I have to make. But when you do that, you start finding peace. Because then you're not worried when things change. Do you get me? You're a lot more calm. You accept it, and you're like, all right, this is what happens. You know, in the South, right, I have a few priest friends in the South. When it snows like a half an inch, they have car accidents, they have highways that shut down. Have you seen that? Every year, it's going to happen. It's already happened. The highway shuts down. People walk away from their cars. So I'm looking like, oh man, what was it, a blizzard? 3 inches. Because they're not used to it. They're freaking out. They're like, oh my God, we're going to die. Like, they don't know what to do because it's in the South. It doesn't snow in the South. New Yorkers, 3 inches is a Tuesday. Like, for us, it's whatever. You just step over the snow and keep going. You know? You can't tell you, oh, it's snowing. He's going to go, yeah, it's 3 inches. I'll see you in a half an hour. You better be here. Because we're used to it. That's only because we have made a mental decision to be okay with changes in the weather. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Do that with your holiness. Do that with the decisions and the obstacles God puts in your way, and you'll find that you're more okay with them. But you have to make that decision. So, there's a step that helps with holiness, that helps with surrender. Now, the old term for it, and I'm all about old, is called holy indifference. Now, you have to put the word holy in front of it, because indifference normally is just mean. Okay? That's if I don't care. You know, indifference is I don't care. If somebody falls over, like, indifference. And we New Yorkers, you don't need a lesson how to be indifferent, because we all know how to do it, right? But on the train next to that person with the crazy looking clothing and talking, and you're like, don't see it. You don't notice, but you bring your tourist cousin around, and they're staring, right? And you're like, stop staring. And then you get back, stop staring. You've learned a certain kind of indifference, but that's not holy indifference. Holy indifference is to be okay. No, really. The definition is that your preference is whatever God's preference is. That's what holy indifference is. Your preference is whatever God's preference is. What does that mean? I want to obey Him. No, obedience, right, is doing only. Holy indifference and surrender are much more of the heart. It's not just about your body. And so you prefer whatever God wants. And when you have holy indifference, when you develop that sense of detachment, holy detachment, again, good word, but you want to put holy because detachment by itself is just weird. But holy detachment means what? Everything is in God's hands, and if He gives it to me, great. And if He doesn't give it to me, that's okay too. The important thing is to have God, not to have anything else. Holy indifference and holy detachment help you then surrender. So how do we look at holy indifference? What do you mean, Father? There's things I like and things I don't like. How can I change? There is a way. Okay, so have you ever heard this? And have you ever thought this? I would be a good person if only this. I would be a good person except for this. I would be a good person except that I'm really attracted to women entirely too much. And they like me. So, you gotta do what you gotta do. I've heard that from people all the time. You kidding me? Oof. I would be a good person except I really like going out too much. And going out like clubbing. Like going out hard. Like, I don't even know where I wake up. Like that hard. It's like, oh. I would be a good person if only for not my family. Except for my family. They make me a bad person. But if it wasn't for them, I'd be a good person. That's all the same thing. It's a version of the if-only argument. Okay? First, before I keep going from that, does everybody get what I'm trying to say? An example of what I'm trying to describe? I know I'm not describing it very well, but I hope you kind of get what I'm trying to say. All of us have them, or most of us have them. We have the if-only. If only for this, otherwise I'd be a good person. Father, if it wasn't for lust, I'll be a saint. Like, that's my only problem. Okay. You get what I'm trying to say? There's all kinds of versions of it. If my mouth is just too fast for my heart, and so it just goes off, and then I realize, okay? When you say if only, what you're saying is, Jesus, I want to be a saint. He says, here's a cross. And you go, I don't want that. What? It's saying, I want to get to heaven without dying. Everybody wants to go to heaven. Nobody wants to die. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's the only door we have to go through. If only means you are rejecting the very exact same cross that God is offering you. That's why it's not an if only for somebody else. I would be a saint except I fall with lust too much. But my cousin, she seems to be okay with it. And we're really similar. We're BFFs. We hang out all the time. But she doesn't fall with lust. That's because that's not her cross. That's yours. I would be a saint, but I really like having people give me their attention. Well, your desire for attention is part of your cross, not somebody else's. God loves you so much, he loves you individually. And so he makes and tailors for you whatever he needs. Any good teacher does that, right? That's why we want small classroom sizes, right? That's a big argument. You ever heard people argue over classroom size? Oh, it's too many kids in a classroom. Why is that bad? Not because you can't get information out. You can get information out. If you got the gift to teach, you can get information out to 200 kids at once. Some of you have done it with me or seen me do it, right? When I went to the mission in DR, I remember the first day we had like 30 kids. The third day we had like 80 kids. I was like, okay. The fourth day we had like 150. I was like, this is bad. Okay. The sixth or seventh day, and I have videos because those kids stole my heart. We had, I'm not kidding, like 200 kids. We had to line them up on bleachers, concrete bleachers. Then I understood why we had bleachers in front of this church. I was like, this church is empty all the time. Why would we? Oh. The third or fourth day, I was like, so we would just go sit down and we would start teaching them religious songs. Because it's that many kids. Well, why do you want small classroom sizes? Because then the teacher can individualize to each child better. That's where that comes from. That's when you want less kids in a classroom, the better the teacher can relate to each child. You guys with me so far? God is the best teacher ever. God is a bringer of light. So that means he customizes your cross for you. So the if-only argument is arguing against the very thing that God wants to give you. So when God wants to give you something to struggle with, because that's how you're going to get your holiness, if you say, I will be a saint except for this, what you're saying is, Jesus, I want to cross. He's like, here, my child. Here, you're like, no. But Jesus, I want to be a saint. Like, you don't wait me. Jesus, get that off me. I don't want that. Jesus, I want. He's like, this is yours. I made this for you. And so the thing is the if-only argument. The way to reach holiness has to be through whatever your crosses are. And no other way. And that that's when religion meets, the rubber meets the road. That's when it's not just about feel good. God wants to bless you. You guys have heard me. I'm sorry, I have a problem with it. And I love interreligious dialogue. I'm going to be part of one next week, because it's Interreligious Unity Week next week for most churches in the world celebrate it around now. Okay? And so I'm going to go, and it's in, I forget what temple, and we're going to have an imam do one prayer, Bishop O'Hara's going to do another prayer, somebody else is going to do another prayer. We do all these prayers, and so I love it, but I don't like fake religion. People are like, damn. I was like, I don't care. It's not about, I don't care what you are, what you believe, but does your religion change you, or do you like to change the world for you? That's the difference between real religion and fake religion. Real religion, I don't care who you are. You and me can be brothers. If your religion tells you need to be a better person every day, then you and me can hang out. But if your religion is, I pray so that the world changes for me, then that's fake religion. Because what you're doing is you want everything to change for you. You are perfect and nothing needs to change. Not okay. So the way to reach holiness is through the crosses. Not around them, not under them, not through them, right through them. And so the if only, got to be careful with it. Because if you think about it, a lot of us are there. We're at that point in our spiritual life where you're like, I could be pretty good. I kind of figure out what I'm supposed to do. It's just this. Just this, that's it. That's the thing that you need to work on. So when we talk about surrender being active, you got to look for that if only. You got to kind of push it away. And here's the good thing about those problems. You know those things that make you do bad things or make you tired or frustrated or mean? Good. They teach you your limit. They teach you they teach you humility if you let them. I'm a good person except for I lose my temper with this. At work, I hate this guy. Well, then that guy is the guy who's teaching you you're not perfect. Be grateful for him. Your limits are important. I don't need limits. I wish I had no limits. No, you do. No, you do. If you ever doubt that you shouldn't be in charge of anything, use the proof of Pope Leo the Great. Pope Leo the Great in one of his homilies said, have you any doubt? Do you want to be in charge of more people? That's good. Look down and look at your body and look how poorly you run that. And then see if you still want to be in charge of other people. And I was like, Pope Leo, that hurts. I can't see my toes. Why you gotta be like that for Pope Leo? I'm tired. I should be up in the morning working out. And I'm like, whatever. I'm either up to pray or I'm sleeping. Those are the two choices in the morning. Because I'm like, health, why? I don't care. So who am I should be in charge of anybody else? I can't even be in charge of myself, in other words. That's why he's Pope St. Leo the Great. Because simple fact like that. So those crosses that you stumble over, they teach you your limits. And that's a good thing. Keeps us humble. Look, we can barely run our own life. Don't worry about running anybody else's. Don't worry about running everybody's life. So you've got to have that struggle. It also shows you what to do better. When you have those limits, when you embrace them, when you realize that there are certain things that are just going to be a struggle for you, you're starting to reach holy indifference. You accept the limits. You accept your pains. You accept your frustrations. You accept them, and you use them for your mortification. Okay, now that's a really pretty fancy word, but let's use it. Let's be clear about what I mean. I don't mean mortification. You have a whip in your house that you whip yourself with. However, if you're down with that, not who might have stopped you. Whatever. However, Saint Jose Maria Escriva, one of my favorite saints, a big hitter and heavy. He hits hard. He makes me look like your soft little old grandma, okay? Some of y'all think Father hits hard. No. That guy hits hard. That guy makes me look like your grandma. Saint Jose Maria Escriva dedicates whole chapters of his books to mortification. But he says your first mortification should be accepting God's will. What is mortification? It comes from the word of death. It means dying to yourself. It means to do something that breaks your own strength, your own will, your own willfulness. It's, okay, so you know how you can't grow in muscle unless you push your muscles to a certain point so that they're forced to then, in response, grow more? Okay? Unless you push yourself in an endurance, then you can't grow physically. So the same spiritually. Unless you break your own habit of my way or the highway, then how can you grow in holiness in doing God's way? You get me so far? This is important. Mortification is one of the secrets, really, to holiness. Where there is no penance, where there is no fasting, where there is no sacrifice, there are demons. That was not me that said that. That's Saint Stephen the Stylite, Saint Simon the Stylite, one of the saints from like 300s. He said, unless you're doing some sort of penance in your life, you're falling in temptation. You just may not see it. Because, do you know, that's why Hollywood marriages last so short. Because by the time you become rich and famous in Hollywood, what happens? That means you're a success. You get me so far? Right. You meet somebody, you marry them. Here's the problem. Marriage is all about the other person. That's the essence of marriage. I give for them. Everything. I give it up for them. I give it up for them. I give it up for them. So, how are you going to be good at that if everybody in your life is around you and doing well because you give up for you? Think about it. Your whole entourage. How did they get nice houses and nice stuff? Because they hang out with you. How did everybody around you make their living? Based on you, on your talent. So are you really going to be good at giving up for somebody else? You might. You hear about some people that get married and stay married forever in Hollywood, but almost none. Very, very, very few. Because they're out of practice. I don't even blame them anymore. I feel bad for them. Because I sit there and go, you don't have a chance. Why? Because you're rich and famous. So everybody around you says you're awesome. So marriage is about the other person being awesome, not about you. I don't think you got a shot. No, I don't think you have a shot. Give it a shot. Hey, awesome, but because everything around you is based on you. Do you get what I'm trying to say here? That's the opposite of mortification. Mortification is saying, I want this, but I'm not going to have it. And doing that breaks you of getting used to only what you want. And that's the fundamental temptation, right? How did Satan tempt Adam and Eve? You will be like God. Do this that God told you not, but look what you get. See, it's about me. Being holy is about being about God. Being about others. You go last. So, the trick is to mortify yourself in your will. When things don't happen that you wanted, thank God for them. Learn to accept them, and what you're doing is you're learning to grow. Because then it doesn't have to be your way only. You know this, and you expect this from children. You know that, right? Mm-hmm. Little kids who throw a tantrum, right? You think for a second, and you're like, if I don't correct this kid, I'm going to have a problem. Maybe once in a while you let it slide because you're tired or whatever. But if you don't correct it overall, what happens? That little kid gets bigger. And eventually that kid's big enough where you can't hit them without them hitting you. And if you didn't teach them to be okay with not getting their way, you're going to have a monster. You're going to have a tiger in your house. And you see this in parents. They're like, but I want to give them everything they want. Nope. In fact, go out of your way not to. I know parents who will go out of their way to go, no, I'm not going to give it to them. I could afford it. We could. No. Why? Because they get too much. That parent is teaching them what? Because when they get into the world, what happens? Those are the people who want everything for themselves. You know what happens? They learn to want what police want or judges want. Because they didn't learn how to want other people. They didn't learn how to limit their wants. So the police has to limit them. Judges have to limit them. So you've got to push yourself to be okay with not getting exactly what you want every time. That way, what? Then you've learned to dominate your will, your passion. Some people struggle with passions, right? You struggle with your temper. My temper gets the best of me. And I always say the same thing. Learn how to control your temper, or your temper will control you. Learn how to control your lust, or your lust will control you. You either learn how to control your passions, or your passions control you. How many people, I know people who failed in their lives just because they're too sleepy. They're too, in bed all morning. And I'm like, oh, come on, like what? Like one day? No, like over time they didn't learn how to discipline themselves to get out of bed every morning. Eventually they stopped going to class. Eventually they fail. And that's it. It's very simple. Their life went in a bad place just because they didn't learn how to dominate that part of their life. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Something very small. Stupid. Really? Come on. Sleep is good. Sleep is the best. But you also have to learn how to stop yourself. How to say, no, if I can't, I have to. Food is awesome. But if you're not careful, doctor will tell you, you got to stop. You're going to hurt yourself. My mother keeps eating sugar and salt. And she's got high blood pressure. And the doctor said it to her, and she don't listen. And I'm like, Ma, you should stop. You get in trouble. Now, does that happen overnight? No, you got to be an old person by then. But still, it builds up. It takes time. Any desire we have, any passion, even the fundamental ones, like I'm saying, sleep, we need it. You will die if you don't sleep enough. You know, food, if you don't learn how to control them to a certain extent, it's not good for you. So the same with any other passions we have. So we have to learn how to mortify them, how to be okay with them not being fulfilled. One of the other ways to do this is active mortification. What's active mortification? That means doing things out of your way that are uncomfortable. Yes. Now this is the one that people think of. Oh, whipping yourself? No. Don't. I mean, again, if you're into that, well, wait, if you're into it, you shouldn't, because another reason. But, I mean, if you think that's an appropriate discipline, then you can discipline yourself. But how about this? Learning how to not have everything you want in your house. It teaches you that you're not always completely in charge of yourself. Like that you're not completely in charge. God can take it away and you'll be okay with it. Like, I mean, and mortification can be simple. Can you go to work in the morning and travel to work with no music? If the idea destroys you, then that's probably a good thing to do with mortification. Well, like every day? Twice a week. That'll make it harder, actually, because then you get used to music. Oh, I can't today. Oh, I can't today. If you have to eat and you always have to have soda or juice, and water is just poison, have soda, have water. I had that, a part of my life, there was a stage in my life that was the truth. Now, I think I've broken that mostly, but there's a stage in my life, and I was like, water is for washing. Am I taking a bath? No, then why you put water on the table? Like, what? I had to break that, for other reasons, but mortification, the spiritual reason, is the most important. If you come home and not getting on your phone after a certain hour, I know a seminarian who did this for Lent. He had no screen time for Lent. No screen time after dinner. Screen time, he was very clear about it. That meant phones, tablets, computers, TV, any screen. And I was like, what happened? He was like, I spoke to my family. He was like, really weird. It was crazy. He was like, oh my God, I have family. Like, it was like really hard. Like, what? He kept it going after Lent because it helped him socialize with the people he lives with. He was like, wow, they're there. Now sometimes they would be watching something, fine. He also said, I never read like I have read in my life. I've read, he goes, you don't understand, Lent, I read like 3 books. Like, I've never done that in that short of a time. That was a mortification. He did it for a spiritual purpose. Did it have practical results? Yeah, good ones. It helped him. But something like that, or, there's different kinds of mortification. Whatever you want. It doesn't have to be big. In fact, it's probably better if it's small. Because St. Jose Maria Escriva has a good saying. He goes, never let your mortification mortify others. Means if you're like, I'm not drinking anything but water, and then you go to somebody's house and they're like, oh, what do you want to have? Oh, I poured you some ice. I don't have anything but water. Okay, your mortification just became their mortification. That's not okay. It's private. Drink the iced tea. Yeah, but I want it. Yeah, but also you wanted not to have it, right? Right. So then you're going to break your own will. Oh, it's like inception, more deception, whatever. It's like going back on what you were going to do so that you don't do it, right? Whatever it is, but it's a small way of doing something. Go out of your way to be kind to the person at work that's just socially awkward. That's all. For a little bit of time. Go out of your way to, I'm going to return every phone call I get within 24 hours. That sounds like a simple thing for some of us, but for some of us, that's like a nightmare.
Sounds like this.
Father Agostino said to me once, he was like, you know what, I think people should say 1 Hail Mary for every text. And I was like, no. He said, what? I said, 1 Hail Mary for every text. He was like, yeah. I was like, are you insane? Now, he don't know about texting, poor guy. So he don't know. I was like, do you understand one conversation between 2 people can have 50, 60, 70, 80 texts? No. I was like, yeah. You don't write, where are you going? Home. Okay, bye. Like, that's not any conversation ever in the history of texting. That's not how it works. He's like, oh, all right. I was like, yeah. No, I like the idea. Somewhere maybe 1 Hail Mary per person you text. Okay, so that's less. Something like that, you know what I'm saying? Like that, but you're not gonna do anything else. You're not gonna be texting. Don't be busy praying. Like no. You don't have time. Your life will shut down. Just to pray. But maybe to do something, yeah. To go out of a way to do the chores that you are supposed to do for your house, but to do them before anybody notices. I know couples are like, he cooks, so I do dishes. Or if she cooks, then he does the dishes. Okay, but I'm going to cook and do the dishes before the person does. Or I do them, I was going to do them later, but I'm going to do them before. Yeah, but right after Sports Center. No, before Sports Center. To do something small as a mortification is a way to train yourself to do and to be okay with what you don't like, is what I'm trying to say. Because God's going to do that for you. I always tell people, you should never understand everything in your religion. What? You see, you want us to be blind obedient. No. I'm a big fan of studying theology. I'm a big fan of answering. You got a question, ask it. It's important. But I am also a big fan of being reminded once in a while that you don't understand everything. You know why? Because you don't understand God. And any God you completely understand is not worth worshiping. If you can understand God perfectly, then you need to find another God. Like, you definitely need to find another God. What, are you kidding me? Yeah, you're better off worshiping science. At least you can't understand everything in science. Like, worship poetry or something. If you have God is always beyond us completely. There's a certain level that he's always going to be. So doing something that pushes you in your religion will strengthen you. So that when he does something you don't understand, you're not freaking out going, I understand everything. Why is he doing this? You never understood him completely. You just got that wrong. So that mortification, why? Because then you own your will. Your will doesn't own you. You with me so far? Why? Because when you own it, then you can give it. Can't give what you don't have. How can I give God my free will and put it under him in submission, an active obedience, an active surrender, if I don't control my own will? If I don't get what I want, I go crazy. And that means that my will controls me. I don't control my will. So how can I give it to God if I don't have it? One other way to do this, now specifics now. We're going to look at some specifics. One, nightly exam. In your nightly exam, and I hope you're doing it or at least trying it, give it a shot. Do it once a week, twice a week, whatever, but try nightly. What do I mean by that? That means every night when you go to bed, before you fall asleep, even if you're laying in your bed, go through your day and see how you did. Do that. Look at the bad, but also look at the good. It's not all about negative. Please, stop. That's wrong. Look at the bad, but also look at the good. But when you do, then look at what you've done well in your day. But then look also, that's just standard practice. That's good practice. Because then, by the way, like I said to some of you before, I'll say it again. Doing a nightly exam of conscience, going to confession often, will make you a better friend, a better brother or sister, a better lover. Why? Because then you know you're not perfect. When you know you're not perfect, you're more patient with the people around you. If I'm aware that I'm not perfect, then I'm okay with other people not being perfect. But if I never look at my own wrong, if I never look at my own weaknesses, if I never look at my own mess-ups, I will not tolerate them in the people around. How dare they? I'm God's gift to humanity with this person, and they couldn't spell something. Their grammar was wrong. That's what people like. But if you're aware of how messed up you are, then you're okay with when you see other people's mess-ups, and you will see it. You don't have a choice in that. So part of your nightly exam, and one other thing to do is what? Look at what you did good, look at what you did bad, and you don't have to spend an hour on it, 5 minutes, 3 minutes. Some days you'll get 1 minute and you'll fall asleep. All right, fine, but you try it. Also look at when things went bad that day. What were your problems? What were your misfires? What were your frustrations? And then say, okay, God, I didn't like that. Thank you. I don't feel the thank you 100%, but that's okay. My feelings will catch up. But thank you. And that way, that's a form of mortification. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Learning how to be okay when things don't go your way. That way, when God does make things not go your way, you're okay. Because you've taught yourself that lesson. Now, one more thing. Well, two more things. In obedience, in submission, in holy abandonment or surrender. Those are really the better words. A lot of times we think of it, if I'm going to surrender to God's will, then I just got to lay there, right? And do what you want, God. This hurts. No, it's not going to get you to heaven. It's not going to get you outside the room. If you lay down, you're not going to go anywhere with that. It's an active surrender. That means I'm looking for what God wants me to do and doing it. Looking for what God wants me to do and doing it. Looking for what... You've had people like that in your life. You've had lovers like that, right? I hope. If you haven't, they'll come. Somebody who looks for what you love and then does it for you. Sometimes we don't know how to deal with that, right? You're like, why are you being so nice to me? Stop. Let yourself be loved. It's okay. But you've had family, right? Usually an aunt, an uncle, a grandma's like that, right? They find out what you love to eat and it's always waiting for you when you get to the house. And you're like, Grandma, stop. I'm trying to wait. Normally this is okay, but stop it. Right? Or something like that. Or it's like, no, but I know you like it. And you're like, no, fine. She bought it in the house. You get to your mother's house and there's food that you know she doesn't eat, waiting in the fridge. And you're like, oh, she did this for me. Why? Because they're not just trying to do for you what they need to do for you. They're going out of their way to find out what you like and doing it for you. See? That's how love is meant to be. Okay. With surrender to God, it's an active surrender. And for those of you who went to the retreat, and you heard this, I'm sorry, but I do want to go over it, because I know we went over it in the retreat, but it's important to go over it again. An active surrender. Well, so if you're so actively surrendering, the next question might be is, well, then what am I supposed to do? What can I do if I got to just look for a route to do? Like, what, I can't move? Like, take a step. Okay, God, next step? Yeah? No? Yeah? No? Yeah? Okay. Okay, next step? Yeah? No? No? Okay. Like, that's going to take forever. So what can you do? Okay, well, look. First things first, guide yourself by prudence. The ancient phrase of philosophy is prudence is the charioteer of the virtues. Aristotle, I believe, is the one who said that first. What does that mean? He means that all the other virtues travel on top of prudence. Like prudence is the one that gets the other ones where they're going. In other words, you need prudence all the time. Prudence will tell you that, yes, you're constantly asking God for what to do in each day of your life, but you have to keep living. You can't freeze between now and the next time God answers you. So you have to do things. Well, what should I do? Use your prudence. Common sense is a nicer way of phrasing it, a more common way of using it, right? But common sense is not all that common, so be careful. Like, use it, but, let this fire off sometimes. Use your prudence. Use moral law. This one's really a big one, and it's really easy. If something is right, do it. If something is wrong, do not do it. Do not sin and do good. It's really easy. Really easy. Constantly look for what is the right thing to do, and you'd be surprised how many questions are answered. Also, if you are in a situation you do not like, can you pray for it to change? Well, you said I should want whatever God wants. So no, right? Maybe. What did Jesus do when God the Father asked him to do something he didn't want? He prayed for it to change. In the Garden of Gethsemane, I am in anguish. Father, let this cup pass from me. But then he added to the prayer the best part of it. But not my will, but your will be done. What is it? G.K. Chesterton says, in the end, there will only be the people who said to God, thy will be done, and they will go into heaven. And then there will be the people that God will turn to them and say, thy will be done, and they will go to hell. Because in the end, it's all about what do you choose if you choose God's will, because thy will be done. So it's either you say it to him or he says it to you. And so heaven is to be with God. If you never want to be around him in this life, you are not going to be around him in the next. You've never looked for him. What is it? There's a cute southern song. I want to live in such a way so that when I knock on the door, Jesus doesn't say, who's that? He comes and says, hey, what's up? Come on in. I'm waiting for you. So we have to constantly ask and pray. But if you don't like something, you can pray, God, let this change. Not my will, but your will be done. But if this can change, so be it. There's nothing wrong with that prayer. God himself said that prayer. It's okay for us to say. Right? Christ is our model for everything. We should always imitate Jesus. Pray for guidance if you're not sure what to do. Too many times we decide something so quickly without asking God once. Think about how many big life decisions we make without asking. What college I went to, what major, what job I picked, what person I began to date. We barely ask. So ask God often. Well, yeah, but sometimes I don't have time to ask him. True, but if you're praying regularly, then you're close enough to him that you get his even small signs. We talked about this, right? You have two friends, two family members, two lovers who know each other so well that even in a slight gesture of their head, they know something. Usually I'm pretty good. I try to make myself good with it, but I've missed it in couples. Like I'll be there in a couple, and I'll be like, we're going to go. And the guy's like, no, we're good. I was like, well, okay. But I've learned quick enough to be like quiet and wait. He's like, I'm like, why? She's mad. No, she's not. I saw it in her face. I'm like, okay. I take his word because he knows her better than me, He's like, she mad. Yeah. Did I do it? Like, of course, immediately I focus on me. Like, did I do it? No? Oh, well then, oh, what you gonna do now? No, but he knows her well enough to know. Or in a text, he'll be like, she mad. And I was like, how do you know? She's like, she wrote, okay, I'll see you later. So?
What's that?
Can I see the text before that? And I read it, I was like, for real? That's enough? He's like, not for her? Yeah, that's unfair. And I was like, oh no, I feel so bad for you. I'm going to go home. I'm going to go home to my house. So the thing is, if you know someone well enough, then you can tell even in small things, right? If you pray enough and you work toward holiness enough, then you'll get, when God will always give you a sign for stuff. But his sign might be small enough and you're not close to him enough for you to read it. So you've got to develop that relationship with God constantly. That way when he does send you very small gestures, you catch it. Because you're close enough. You walk hand in hand. And last but not least, of course, do whatever helps you practice virtue. I need to be kinder, or I need to be more polite, or I need to be more energetic about doing the right thing, and I got to stop being lazy about it, or I got to stop dragging my feet when I got to do this, or I got to be more prudent in my prayer life, because my prayer life is blech. I pray when I feel like it, and then I don't. Whatever it is, whatever virtues that we're working on, we got to make it conscious. And that's going to help us in the last topic, which is problems or failures. Okay, there's two types of big problems in your spiritual life: failure in your internal life and failure in your external life. What do I mean by this? Let's start with external. That's easier. You decided to start coming. Hello, come on in. Right there. Okay, ready? Failures. Let's say you went to a retreat or you went to a group or something, and you're like, okay. And let's say some of you will come to this group regularly, some of you don't. Fine. You say, I'm going to start coming every other Thursday, second and fourth Thursday of the month. I'm going to come to this group. All right, right? You show up in 2 weeks, and there's no group meeting. And then you find out that the group had a big fight, and they no longer meet. And you're like, damn, son, I just got here. Damn. Can we talk about it? Everybody's like, no, we hate you. And you call me up, and I'm like, no, I hate you. I don't know who you are, but I hate you. Okay, so what happened? That's a failure in the external. You're trying to do the right thing, but it didn't work. It happened to me at St. Dennis. I had people coming to church. I broke my heart. People were like, hey, Father, I'm new in the parish. I really like this. I've been coming a couple weeks. I can't wait. And I'm like, oh, we're closing in July. And I had to tell people that. Sister Mater Christi, she was my secretary, and people would call the rectory. And I want to register in the parish. She's like, what do I tell them? I said, you tell them we're closing. She's like, but Father, I said, don't do that to them. Don't lead them on. That's mean. We're only going to be here for 8-9 more months. That's not fair to them. Let them know. They're welcome to stay till the last weekend of July, but that's the last day we're going to have Mass in this building. For that person, it might have felt like a failure. Like, yeah, I came back to church after a long time, and now the church is closing that I like? Yes. So when that happens, what are you supposed to do? Okay. So, first things first. If you are living mortification, if you're living where you're okay with failures, with problems, with crosses, then you already know where we're going here. You've learned to be okay with that. Is it going to hurt? Of course it's going to hurt. St. Ignatius of Loyola, he founded the Jesuit order. His style is the retreat style that we do in January. That's the style of retreat. We do it his style. It's a silent retreat with just the conference. St. Ignatius of Loyola once told his young men that he formed in this religious order, they're one of the most glorious orders. They really helped a lot of people in a very short time. They really did a lot in the church. The Jesuits still do a lot. When he founded them, he said to his men, I remember reading this and being blown away. He said, live in such a way, so detached from the earth and so in love with God, that whatever he asks would be okay. I hope, and I've lived in such a way, this is his words, that if I found out that the order was being disbanded tomorrow, it would take me half of a holy hour to get ready with the will of God, and then I'd be able to move on. Now that's somebody who'd worked his whole life for this. But he knew if it was taken away, he would say, I think it would take me about half an hour in prayer, and I'd be okay with it. Now, are we at that level of holiness yet? Well, I'm not. I'll tell you what. I don't know about y'all, but it took me a little longer than that for some things. But it's doable. If you train yourself to be okay with when God puts an obstacle, a stumbling block, if you learn to accept it as something for some reason that he understands, then when those big ones come, you're ready. But if you'd never train yourself, when the big ones come, you'll be knocked over. It'll crush you, because you've never had it. You've never had to deal with it. You've never chosen to deal with it. So that's why I said before, holy indifference is important to develop, of saying, what God wants is what I want. In the big things and even in the little things. So that even if he took away something that I know I'm supposed to be doing, I'll trust that he has a reason. By the way, the Jesuit order was disbanded for a short time after St. Ignatius died, but they did. It was a weird, bizarre move, and eventually it was reconstituted because it wasn't about them doing good work. But you wonder about how many of the men that he trained were around for it. It was within their lifetime, not his. You wonder about how much it hit them. By the way, if you can and you want, you can come with me to Rome. This is my plug, my commercial plug. February 2017. You got plenty of time. Stop lying. You got a year and change to come with me to Rome. We're going to Rome, and we'll go to this church. Where St. Ignatius Loyola there, the statue of the Jesuit. We're going. Who's coming with? All right, that was my
Is
commercial.
it during
Anyway,
the DOE spring break?
it is during the DOE spring break. I specifically put it during the third week of February. What? You gotta watch me. I'm slick. I'm dangerous. Yeah. Okay, so back on point. Sorry. I remember at one point, Sister Mater Christi. She was a young woman who was with the group when this group was founded. She's from this parish, and eventually she came with me to be my secretary at my last parish, and then she went into a religious order. For those of you who don't know her. Young girl from this neighborhood, down the block. She lived on Post. And what happened? I remember she noticed that after our first elections, we had a president. At the end of our first year, we had elections again, and we had written it into the bylaws you could be elected twice. So the first president was elected again. Okay? At the end of that, it was nervous. People were nervous. They were like, who's going to run it? Because the president's not going to be the president anymore. We can't. So people started panicking. She came to me. She's like, what do we do? And I smiled and I gave her a hug and I said, now we find out if the group is from God or if it's just from me. She's like, what do you mean? It's like, I was with the group when they were founded. Let's see if we were really going to stay or if we're just messing around. We just had a good time. Which I don't regret it. We had 2 good years. If we finish, we finish. She's like, Father, you can't be that way. And I smiled. I gave her a hug and I said, sweetie, you have to be that way. If it's not from God, let it fall over now. And if it is, then God will look out for it. God looked out for his church way before I got here. He's going to do it after I'm in the dirt. So I guess he's going to look out for it now. She panicked. She didn't like that. She was so angry with me. She was like, no. So she was in charge. She had a thing where she had one of the speaking. That was the first time I was invited back after I left. One of the first. And we talked about leadership. And it was because she was like, leadership. To get people to want to be a volunteer leader. We got a second president. Okay. Second president ran for 2 terms. 2 terms, day 1. End of the time, she came to me again. What's going to happen again? I was like, you don't pay attention, do you? Were you not here before? Yeah, you were here. She's like, people don't want to volunteer. And at that point, I was like, why don't you step up? And she's like, I can't. And she couldn't. Because she was like, I'm working on my master. I'm going to the convent. I don't know whatever. Which is true. I said, that's okay. Somebody will step up. But what happens if nobody steps up? Then the group will die. But Father, you love that group very much so. But it is either from God, then God will look out for it, or it is not from God and it'll fall apart. She had a good answer. She said, what if it's from God but people aren't listening? And I smiled and I said, good. Then it deserves to fall over. They should follow through. That's on them. She's like, but what will you do? And I was like, I will smile, shuffle off, and keep it walking. I was like, kiddo, you have to be able to be detached enough from that. The thing is it's easy to have that scare, and that's reasonable to say, wait, something I love, I want it to keep going. But we've got to be enough detached. From good things, I mean, even from the things that we think we're doing the right thing. Some people, this parish has a parish mission. They go every year. What if they had to stop? Would you be angry and crushed and hurt and angry? Then that's careful that's not here. That's not you wanting it and not serving God. Of course you want it. But you got to be okay with God if he changes the plan on you. Or if they change it and you were used to going to the mission and they said, no, now we're only taking men this, I don't know, somewhere, I'm making it up. So we're only taking men this year. And some of the women be like, but, you got to let it go. Put it in God's hands. He knows what he's doing. He ran the church before you got here. He'll run the church after. So if you have frustrations in your external stuff, you have to learn to put it. The bigger problem, look at this guy. Come on in. It's right there. The bigger issue, the bigger struggle is when you are frustrated, when you fail interiorly. Now, with everybody here, and anybody who went to the retreat, and anybody who didn't can get the links for the talks. We have them. I don't know if somebody has them. Franklin, oh yeah. Franklin has them. He has the links for the talks so you can listen to them if you want. We talk about surrender, right? This is the biggest one. This is the biggest struggle. Interior failure. That means what? Either you sinned, or let's say God's just not talking to you. It happens. Okay, I would be lying to you and denying every single saint that we could ever look at if we didn't say that there were not moments of darkness in their lives. What about that one? What about, you're doing the right thing, you're starting to pray, you're trying to change your life little by little, you've made some big changes, you got rid of some bad relationships, or relationships you like but are not so good for you. You did a big change, right? You're ready to walk with Jesus. And then Jesus hangs up on you. And you're like, what do I do now? Wait a minute, I was doing the right thing. And here's the best part. What about if he hangs up on you, but externally everything else is still working? The group still meets, if you chose this group or another group you're going to. Church is still going. You get to go to a mission that you wanted to go. Everything else is going out all right. But inside, the lights are all off. Do you get what I'm trying to say, the difference? The other one I was trying to talk about is external stuff, right? Trying to do something right, and it doesn't work out for you. What about the opposite? Everything outside might be okay, or not okay, whatever. But inside, the lights get turned off. What do you do? Well, if you are really looking to surrender, if you're just doing obedience, like I said, if you're just doing obedience, this is when you'll fall. And we've all had this. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you just can't remember. Because we've all had that. You start walking with Jesus, that song, I have decided to follow Jesus. I like that song. I have decided, right? You do that, and then Jesus stops the music, and you just stop walking. You're like, cool, so I'm going to go back and hang out. Peter does that, doesn't he? Good Friday comes, and what happens? Christ dies. They run away, right? It's bad. It's a horrible moment. What do they do the next Sunday? Peter says it. I am going fishing. And he goes, I will go with you. And they all go, a bunch of them go fishing, a bunch of the apostles. Why do they go fishing? Because it's what they did before they were apostles. They went back to their old life. And it's there where Jesus finds them, right? He comes on the water. He says, have you caught anything? He tells them to go fishing, and then he comes to meet them, and they realize it's Jesus. Okay. So we all get tempted to go back to the old life. It happens. When the lights get turned off, that's the difference between obedience and surrender. If you're obeying God, if you just think it's rules that you have to follow, then when the lights get turned off, you quit. It's like a sad game of, what is that? The chair where you sit when there's music and you keep moving along with the music. Musical chairs. There, I knew that. I was testing you. Very good. Very well done. So, musical chair. It's like a game of music stops, sit down quick. But that's when you're doing obedience. When you're doing surrender, when your surrender is active, when you're constantly looking for the will of God and trying to do it as best you can, then when the lights turn off, you have a better chance. What do? Look to your virtues. Look to your virtues. In other words, it's not about what you're feeling, it's about what you're doing. Yeah, but my feelings are important. Of course they are. But they don't make decisions. You are not Inside Out. I'm not trying to knock that movie. The movie was pretty good. Right? I'm just saying, Inside Out, everything's driven by feelings. I was like, that's not true. Nobody would be a janitor. You're Inside Out. Yeah, toilets. Like, nobody's like that. That's a lie. That's a lie. Okay? No, stop it. Nobody be outside the pool. Stop it. Okay? So, you have to understand, our feelings are important, but you have to move past them. You have to get to the point where your feelings don't have to be there to guide you, because your feelings will always go and come. That's what makes them feelings. They come and they go. Or that's part of them being feelings. Okay, every mom who has a baby, when they first cry, the 200th time they cry, it's not. The 1000th time that you're like, oh God, kill me. Because that 1,000 times they cry is easily in a month. I mean, they hit 1,000 times easily. 1,000 times not a long time. You're dying, okay? And so you have to get past the emotion to the point where you're saying, I know I don't feel it, but I'm still going to care for this child. And that's what emotion is. What? I love this woman, I love this man, but there's times that they piss me off. I still love them. That's when we move past emotion. The same with God. If you are in darkness internally, and everybody goes into darkness eventually, if you are, then all you have is what you are doing, then that's all you need. Hold on to that. Focus on that. In other words, if you feel complete darkness, if you pray and you hear nothing, if you really feel nothing, it's dry. It's like torture to go to church and sit in the church for 5 minutes. But you are still walking in terms of doing the right thing and do it, then you are moving closer to God faster than you've ever done before. Why? Because now He's giving you nothing and you still love Him. That's love. If He has to give you a candy for you to give Him a hug, then you only love the candy. You don't actually love Him, you just love the feeling of God. And that's really crummy. I don't like people who only love me for that. And you shouldn't either. People like that, they're only there when things are good. They'll be gone when things get bad. Well, the same thing if we do that to God. If you only pray and you only do the right thing and you only live moral life when you feel it, then you actually only like the feeling. You don't actually like God. So you're gone. You haven't even started walking holy. All you did is just do. What you did is the way little Miss right there walks across this room. Can she walk? Yeah, if her mom holds her, puts her legs down and goes like that. She can walk right up and down the hallway. But if she lets her go, she's going to plop on her booty. Okay? Like, bloop, look up like, what happened? That's how far you walk with God. He's been carrying you, but sometimes He needs you to learn how to walk on your own. Otherwise, you never learned. And He's so kind that He teaches you. He gives you those good moments. St. Augustine says that. He said he had good moments, all these moments from God. He realized it was to get him started, but he also realized he hadn't really started until he moved by himself without those good feelings. So when you're in darkness, what you do is measure actions. People ask me sometimes, right? They ask me sometimes for like the Amigos de Jesus retreat. I remember the first year I was in this parish, the youth group was called the Amigos de Jesus, the Friends of Jesus. And we did our weekend, and we came back, and the pastor of the parish was the assistant. The pastor of the parish said, "So how'd it go?" I said, "I think pretty good." He goes, "You think? What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, I can't measure faith. I don't know any machine that can. I can measure sacraments, though." We had confessions going all weekend. If every kid didn't go to confession, almost every kid went to confession. He's like, "You kidding?" I was like, "No," because I had a bunch of priests come in and help me out. Why? Because I can't measure faith. Faith is what God sees. I can't see that. But I can measure actions. People ask me sometimes how things go, and I go, "Well, I don't know." Or I can say, "Well, based on what I can see." What can you measure? And so when you stand in front of God and say, "I love you," He's going to go, "Show me. What did you do? If you didn't do anything, what's the love? I felt it." You can't pay bills with feelings. You can't do nothing with God either with feelings. You have to do something. It's doing. It's not even the words you say. It's about what your actions are. Actions speak far louder. So when you're in darkness, it's going to happen. It's not if it happens. It's when it happens. When it happens, you have to look what? Look at your actions. And I trust me, that's enough. There's going to be moments that's all you could do. I promise. There's going to be moments you're in pitch blackness. You're not going to know what to do. You're not going to want anything. And all you're going to know is, okay, follow the steps. Fine, that's what I'll do. I was present once. I did not ask him this because I wouldn't have asked this because I'm just mortified by the question. But somebody once asked John Cardinal Connor. He was one of the archbishops of New York. He was an old man. He died of cancer a couple of years later, about 2 years later. Well, he had cancer by then. We didn't know. But we were on a retreat and somebody said, "Well, what was your worst moment spiritually?" I remember looking at the guy like, "What are you, stupid? You're going to ask him that in front of all of us?" Whatever. But he answered. I was shocked. He said when he was a chaplain, I'm not sure if it was Korea or Vietnam. I want to say Korea, but he was a chaplain in the military. He was a priest. And he said he hit about a 3-month period where he didn't believe in God. He had nothing. He'd go in, he'd say the prayers. They had a tent, a nice like zinc little hut. He'd say the prayers, but as far as he was concerned, nobody was on the other end. And they said, "What did you do?" He goes, "I woke up every day. I offered mass for the men every day. I heard their confessions. I gave last rites to men who were dying." This is in the middle of the battlefield. It's not like you could just be like, "I'm dying, I don't know." I called my bishop up and I said, "I don't think I believe anymore." The bishop's like, "What?" He goes, "I feel nothing." He's like, "No, come on. What do you mean? You're one of my best chaplains." He goes, "I got nothing. I'll keep doing it, but I need you to send somebody." He's like, "Okay, it's going to take me a couple months." Okay. So for a couple more months, he kept working, doing every right step. And I'd love to tell you that there was a great moment where one of the soldiers said something as he was dying, and it was nothing. No, because sometimes the story like, "Oh, but what happened?" Nothing happened. That's the story. Nothing happened. And he said, "I can't tell you when it happened, but little by little, I began to believe a little more. A little more and a little more. Each day I felt it came back, and I felt stronger and stronger. By the time my replacement came, I switched out. I went home because I still didn't trust myself because I was really freaked out by myself, like going, what kind of man are you to help these men pray and die? They're in combat. You're helping them die right, and you don't believe it. So I switched home. But he goes, but by the time I got home, I felt fine. I went to a parish. I was signing parish. I was doing work. I loved it, and I was okay. But he said, but for that moment, all I could do is do what I was supposed to do. I didn't feel anything, but I knew that at least I knew what I was supposed to do. Wake up in the morning, be there for morning prayer, be there for the mass, be there for the soldiers, hear their confessions, give conferences, give retreat. He did everything he had to do. He just didn't feel anything. What I'm proposing to you is that's exactly what we have to do when we feel nothing inside. And that's a lot to do as it is, because you're going to feel nothing, but at least it's something to guide you. By the way, if you ever don't feel God's presence, right, you ever lose peace, right, there's two answers, right? One, you need to go to confession. You got sin you got to deal with. Or you're not doing His will for some reason. There's something in Him that He wants. Is there a third possibility? Yes, but it's very rare. I've said this to you before, and people are like, so that's me too. It's like, stop it. Father, that's just stop it. It's that you've moved closer and you're not ready to see it yet. It's like when you go outside and there's too much light. You're blind for a second. It means God has moved closer, and sometimes we can't perceive Him very well. You're like, oh, Father, I'm getting holier. That's why I don't feel it. Really? Had to be that one, right? Couldn't be one of the first two. Right? Stop. 9 times out of 10 is one of the first two. It can be the third. The way you measure is simple. Go to confession, so you're sure. Pray about God's will, make sure you're doing it, and then keep doing what you're supposed to be doing. If you can and you do, then probably it is the third one. But you see how hard it is to get to that third one? And also, that's a really scary road to be. I must be the one getting holy. Whenever people say that to me, I'm like, I feel bad for you. If that's true, I feel bad. Why? You didn't read the book, did you? It gets real worse when you're getting holier. Things get harder, not easier. But that does happen, okay? And it has to happen. Why? Because if God doesn't let us go and carry and love Him without the candy, then we won't ever learn to love him. We just learn to love the candy. So the idea was to basically talk a little bit about surrender and to continue surrendering. The difference between surrender and obedience, right? Obedience is about justice. It's what you're supposed to do, and that's it. But it's also the minimum. Surrender is about willingly giving yourself up, and it's a constant struggle. And then it's talk about, what can I do while I'm surrendering? I can't surrender, so I lay down. No. There's a lot to do, but you have to understand that overall, there's a development of what? Of your relationship. Your relationship with God gets stronger, just like your relationships in your life can get stronger. And as they do, you understand each other with less and less. And you understand each other more and more. You really know how to be with each other. Even if you don't say anything, you know what you can enjoy and not enjoy. All right? How about any questions, comments, concerns, rude remarks? By the way, if you missed any of the talk, or if you want the retreat talks, the retreat talks, Franklin has them, or I have them. Somebody has them. We can email you the links or whatever. Franklin's are edited a little bit, because mine are just whatever was there is what I recorded and that's what played. That's what you get. I'm sorry, I'm not good with this. I'm proud that I learned how to record it, all right? That's a big step for me. But Franklin cleaned it up and everything, and he recorded this one as well, so he can email you the links, or, I don't know, maybe text. I don't know. He can get them to you with some sort of magic, the magic he does. But, so if you want those, you can listen to those at some point. But in the end, it's about making your decisions. And you're going to be bad at it when you start, okay? Everybody's bad at everything when you start. It's all right. You can suck horribly when you start being good. That's okay. Everybody's bad at what they do. But when a baby falls when they're learning how to walk, you don't smack the child. What's the matter with you? You're supposed to walk. You're no child of mine. And you just try to get some air. Like you try to lift it. No, okay. No. You go, oh no, and you pick up the kid and you hold them and you help them walk again. But when you try, if you're genuinely trying, God doesn't hate you. He doesn't hate you if you try to be good and you fail. He picks you up and he tries to help you walk again. Okay? So any questions, comments, rude remarks, political statements?
You said that when you have no feelings, you just do what you have to do. At that point...
No feeling of the presence of God,
right,
yeah.
If you don't feel, at that point is that... I know it's surrender, but it almost sounds like obedience.
It is... Obedience at that point is when it stops happening. Because obedience stops, it gives up when it doesn't have feelings. Because if it doesn't have clear directions, then it kind of goes, oh. At that point, it's absolutely, really more surrender. It's a much more deep surrender. Because it's really saying, God, I'm trying to do your will, and I'm not even getting you out of it. We do God's will to receive him. Like he who has everything in God has no more than the man who only has God. Because God is everything. And so when God says, I'm not even going to give you that, it's Abraham going up the mountain to sacrifice his son. It's a beautiful thing to pray about. To take that, I think it's Genesis chapter 11. I'm a little rusty, but that might be it. But it's where God tells Abraham, take your son, your only son, the one whom you love, and sacrifice him. The son was what God had given Abraham as part of the deal. Remember, the deal was, I'll be your God, and I'll make you a father and give you lots of kids. And so he gives him his first son. He's going to have other sons. He's still little. And he's like, now go sacrifice him. And Abraham, it's amazing, because Abraham, what must he have felt like? Going up that mountain going, I'm going to give up the one thing that's supposed to be mine. I filled my end of the bargain. I pray, I do my stuff. That emptiness, but that trust that he talk about surrender, complete surrender. So it's not that I know what you mean about there's a mechanical obedience in it. No, I would go further and say this. Obedience comes out of a certain sense of obligation. Surrender should come out of a sense of love. And love doesn't require feelings. Love is a feeling. Unfortunately, we use the word for two different things. Right? Like love as the feeling and love as the decision. And I mean the decision. That's when it's real. Because love, the feeling, comes and goes. There are times you love someone, there are times you love them less. But the decision, that's why I don't like in English we have the same word, and that's kind of shady. Because you can use and think they mean the same thing. They don't. There's a very big difference in that, Love that is shown without feeling is way more deep than love that is shown with... think about parenthood. Parenthood is a really good example. Because there's going to be times that you do not like that child. And I don't just mean when they're little. What about when they're 14 or 15 and they've done something horrible in your name? And they say, I hate you. That's love. That's when you're looking at, okay, this is love. This is like, I always think of when I used to play football, when I was a center, and you put your feet down, look at the guy in front of you, put your knuckles down, lean forward and go, I'm committed now. Because if you're doing it right, you're leaning just ready, so the slightest thing, you're going to go forward. As soon as you hear the ball hike. you move. It's that pressure, that moment right there. Can you do it? You know, that real, I'm going to put my body into this. That's love. And parenthood helps. Family helps you do that, because there's going to be times you do not like your family. But hopefully you still love them. You do. So I would say, I know what you mean though about saying, is it obedient? No, because it shouldn't be mechanical. Because mechanics will fall apart. They might last a day, but they're not going to last very long. Because you'll just quit. You'll just be like, forget it. I can just live my life and be happy. Because I can assure you, the devil will come around and offer you. I can promise you that. You feel alone, but only from one side of the conversation. The other side of the conversation, he's right there. He's like, hey, so I heard you got no friends. Well, I got something for you. I can assure you that's when the temptations will come. Usually the worst ones, the biggest ones, the ones that you always fall for. But if you push through that, you've grown so much more. You know? I'm sorry, any longer answer than you meant. Sorry. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Struggles? Well, you know, yeah.
Well, I have something that happened to me yesterday, and after I walked away from it, I kind of was like, well, you don't necessarily feel good about it. You know, you live in this city where a lot of people approach you at random. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those, like, when someone asks you for directions, but you get the sense, your internal sense is that something's off. Like, you kind of listen to those instincts. So you kind of take, like, a step back. And the person, it was a male who stopped me to ask me for directions. So I just, like, took a step back. I'm like, okay, like, what do you need? Okay, he's like, why are you stepping back from me? I'm like, because I don't know what you want. You know? And he's like, oh, I needed some directions. He's like, but actually the train left me one of those, like, you know, and you right away go to, like, okay, one of those, like, you know, a part of me feels bad. A part of me felt bad because I right away went there, like, oh, here we go. You know? But, so he explained his piece, how his train, he needed money to get back to Philadelphia, and a kind girl gave him money, and he needs some more. So that I can help him out. And I said, sorry. Actually, I only had $2 cash on me because I just came from buying my breakfast, which I told him. I was like, I just bought my breakfast. I actually don't have very much money to give you. My hands were literally full. But no excuses aside, I was just like, I didn't feel very comfortable in that because I wasn't sure that the instincts were that story wasn't coming from a good place, per se. So I was like, I'm sorry, I can't help you. He's like, how about if I were your father? You wouldn't help me? And I'm like, I'm sorry, sir, I can't help you. So I just walked away, and then he cursed at me. Yeah. So it's one of those situations where you're like, okay, then you don't leave feeling good about it because you're like, well, I could have helped that man, but I don't think that man is really, I don't know that my help would have done something good for him.
Sure.
I don't know if he's just going around, you know, playing people. You know, I don't know, but either way, you feel like that lack of peace because I'm like, well, maybe that man was in need, and I'm just assuming about him, like, because there's too many of them out. So that's my piece. Because it's a very recent event, and I feel like, I don't know if I have I'm approachable sign on my head, but I feel like those things happen to me more than normal.
I've been at Macy's and people ask me to help them with makeup. So I have apparently one of those signs. I was walking with Father Antonio and he was like, yep. He was like, Vite, they talk to you, they don't talk to me. I was like, yeah, your face is different than mine. All right, I'll take it. Not a bad thing. Another person's like, hi, can you help me with makeup? I was like, you need to keep moving. And it happened again a few hours later. We went to another store. We were doing Christmas shopping. So I walked to another store, Target, and the person was like, hi. And I was like, what? I was not in clerics either. I was not. Yeah, the beard helps make people feel, you know, that I'm dangerous. No. What I would say is this. The question here becomes, what am I helping them do? And you don't want to help them do something immoral. Don't do that. I don't want to do it. And you're like, but I want to help people. Okay, then find the charity that you know where it will go. And do that. Sometimes your instinct will tell you, no, I think I can give this person something. I can trust them. Fine. But if your instincts, you should trust your instincts. Because that could be a matter of your personal danger. Like that's what we're looking at here now, where you're like, wait. And the other thing is, you got to look at also, there's a time for everything, but there's also a preparation for that time, you know? So for example, here the parish does the Christmas thing, the Christmas dinner, right? I don't know if they still do this, but they used to have where they would go out and take sandwiches.
Yes.
Do they still do that?
Yes.
That group of people was very specific. They were ready, they were trained, and they were doing what they were going to go do. So there's a different mindset, and there's a different prep for them. You get what I mean? I never went out with them. I always wanted to, but I was always supposed to be here. So I was like, okay, which is fine. I mean, it was great to be here and help the people that came to us. But what they did was very specific. You get what I'm trying to say? Like there's a mindset and a time and a place and a way of doing it. So the moments will come up and interrupt you where you can help. And you should if you get a feeling that you're not in danger and that you can. But if you cannot, or if you feel like if you would, you put yourself in danger, or you would help someone do something wrong, then you should not. Your moral obligation is gone. There's no moral obligation there. You know, if you still want to, you can. You could always go above and beyond. But that's that first thing that I said about prudence. That's why I put it first. Like that prudence is important because the reality is there are way too many people out there that will really do harm with just a little bit of rope. You know, you just give them a little bit of rope and they will yank on it and do something very, very dangerous. So that's where that prudence comes in. Of saying, no, I'm going to keep it moving. I mean, and again, right off the bat, you see, two things. One, he didn't come at you honestly. Need directions. Well, actually, don't do that. Just come openly and honestly, one. And he finished in a bad way. You know, you walked away and he wasn't like, God bless you. I'm sure he said something to you, but it wasn't God bless. The first word. Something else you know. That's where that prudence has to come in. And the reason sometimes we lose our peace is because it's so unsettling. Just on a physical level even. Your heart rate goes up, your hormones start shooting, your adrenaline starts pumping. You know, there's a whole other set of things that happen. But when you pull away from it, you go, no, wait. I didn't dirty myself spiritually. I was close to something that maybe could have or hurt me. Wait, I didn't actually do something wrong here. I just got away from something that was actually really dangerous. You know, or possibly dangerous. But those moments will come. When they come, what I would say is at the end of your day, look over them, pray about them, and be like, okay, something interesting to keep in mind. When you can, you have a conversation about it, you talk it out. Nobody gets to heaven alone. Nobody gets to hell alone. So talk it out with people that you have a holy and healthy relationship. Talk it out with them so you can get, bounce it out and see what's up. Get ready for it next time. I've known people who pack things in their bag, like, coins or something to give away to people or food or something like that. That's maybe a way to do it. But this kind of person may be careful. They'll throw the fruit at you. Like they're angry because they want money. You know what I mean? So use your prudence, and I think you did. Honestly,
So unfortunately, we're running out of time.
Right.
And we still have to do night prayer.
Right.